Though she walks alone, she is never truly alone. To the outside world, her solitude might look like emptiness, but within that silence lives an entire universe of unseen protection. Every step she takes in quiet strength is watched over by forces greater than human eyes can see. Her ancestors whisper through intuition. The universe aligns small miracles in her path, and divine energy surrounds her like a cloak of light. Her journey may look lonely, but in truth, it is sacredly accompanied. There are nights when her heart aches for understanding, when she wonders why her path feels so different from everyone else's. But even then, when tears fall in stillness, she can feel it. That gentle reassurance, that invisible embrace. It's the presence of something holy reminding her, you were never meant to walk with the crowd. You were meant to walk with purpose. Every detour, every ending, every closed door was protection, not rejection. Empath women often mistake solitude for abandonment, but as they awaken, they realize it's divine preservation. The universe isolates them not to punish, but to protect their light from energies that cannot handle its purity. Every time she chose peace over chaos, silence over arguing, and distance over drama, she was honoring her spiritual contract. That quiet strength is not weakness, it's divine partnership. When she sits in meditation or simply breathes under the moonlight, she's not alone. She's in conversation with the unseen. Her spirit connects with something timeless, something eternal. The breeze that brushes her skin feels like a reminder, you're guided, you're loved, you're safe. The ancestors who walked before her left strength in her blood, wisdom in her bones, and courage in her soul. Their prayers built bridges she now walks upon, even when she doesn't see them. So while she may walk without human company, she walks in divine companionship. Angels walk behind her, the universe clears her path, and the divine watches with pride as she chooses authenticity over approval. Every challenge she faces alone is shaping her into a vessel of healing, resilience, and light. Her aloneness is not a void, it's a vibration, a sacred frequency where truth, peace, and divine love meet. She doesn't need crowds to feel complete, because she carries heaven within her. The narcissists who once sought to drain her will never understand this kind of strength, the kind that doesn't shout, doesn't chase, and doesn't seek validation. Because the empath woman knows now, she's never truly alone. The divine walks beside her. The universe stands behind her. And her light, that eternal flame, will always lead her home. Every empath's season of solitude is not a punishment. It's a divine preparation. When the noise fades and the world grows quiet, she begins to hear what her spirit has been whispering all along. Her isolation isn't loneliness, it's alignment. It's where her soul is recalibrated, her heart is healed, and her intuition becomes razor sharp. Every person who left, every betrayal, every silent night served a higher purpose, to guide her back to her true self. Empaths give so much of themselves to others that they often forget their own power. Their love becomes a lifeline for people who only want to take. But solitude changes that. It's in the stillness that she remembers who she was before the world told her who to be. She rediscovers her worth, not in validation, not in approval, but in divine truth. Her spirit begins to glow again, not because someone else ignited it, but because she finally stopped dimming her own light. This sacred isolation teaches discernment, the ability to sense what aligns with her soul and what drains it. She starts recognizing energy not by words or actions, but by vibration. When someone carries hidden motives, her spirit feels it instantly. The same intuition that once overwhelmed her now becomes her compass. She no longer walks blindly into connections hoping to be understood. She walks with awareness, grounded in divine guidance. The empath's solitude is her training ground. It's where she learns to set boundaries without guilt, to love without losing herself, to give without depletion. Every tear that once fell in confusion becomes wisdom in her eyes. She realizes that peace is not something found in another person, it's something built within. The more she protects it, the stronger it grows. The divine often hides his most powerful souls in quiet seasons, away from the chaos of the world. That's where transformation happens. That's where the empath's purpose begins to bloom. When she finally steps back into the world, she doesn't return as the same person who was broken and drained. She returns as a healer, a teacher, a light. Her energy becomes medicine for those who are ready, not for those who seek to take. The narcissists who once thrived on her softness can no longer reach her frequency. She's moved beyond their games, their illusions, their control. Her isolation purified her energy, and now her presence itself becomes protection. She no longer attracts chaos because she no longer vibrates on its level. Every empath woman who walks alone is not lost. She's in divine rehearsal. She's being refined for her purpose, strengthened for her calling, and prepared to lead with compassion that doesn't cost her peace. Her solitude is not an ending. It's the sacred beginning of everything her spirit was created to become. When an empath finally pulls away, something powerful happens. The narcissist loses their favorite source of control. For so long, they've fed on her kindness, her forgiveness, her constant attempts to understand what cannot be understood. She has been their mirror, reflecting back the image they wanted the world to see. But when that mirror breaks, when she stops responding, the illusion collapses. And what's left behind is their greatest fear: exposure. At first, the narcissist doesn't believe it. They've trained the empath to respond, to fix, to stay. They try charm, sudden apologies, love bombing, promises of change. They tell her, "You're overreacting," or "No one will ever love you like I do." They're desperate to pull her back into the cycle, to make her doubt herself again. But this time, she's different. Her silence says more than her words ever did. She no longer argues, no longer explains, no longer pleads to be seen. She simply walks away. And that's what terrifies them most. When the narcissist realizes they've lost control, their mask begins to crack. The charming confidence fades, revealing the emptiness underneath. Rage replaces the fake tenderness. They lash out through insults, rumors, or manipulation, anything to provoke a reaction. Their panic is not about love, it's about losing supply. Without someone to feed their ego, they are left alone with their own insecurity, something they've spent their whole lives running from. They may stalk, guilt trip, or play the victim. "After everything I've done for you." But none of it works anymore. The empath, once tangled in emotional confusion, now sees clearly. She realizes their anger isn't proof of love, it's proof of dependency. Narcissists don't mourn relationships, they mourn control. For the empath, this is the moment of awakening, the point where her compassion turns inward. She no longer sees herself as broken for caring too much. Instead, she understands her energy has value, and not everyone deserves access to it. The narcissist's chaos only confirms her growth. Their panic is her proof of power. The narcissist may try to replace her quickly, seeking new attention to patch their fragile ego. But no new supply feels the same. Empaths love differently, deeply, spiritually, authentically. Once she's gone, they feel it like a void that no amount of attention can fill. And deep down, they know they'll never find that light again. Meanwhile, the empath rises quietly. She doesn't seek revenge because peace itself is the greatest revenge. Her silence becomes her boundary, her absence their mirror. The narcissist, left to face the emptiness within, begins to unravel, because without someone to manipulate, they must finally confront themselves. And so, in losing her, they lose everything they tried to control. Because you can't control what was never yours, and an empath's soul was never meant to be owned.
For an empath woman, the word no is more than just a boundary. It's a breakthrough. It's the moment she finally realizes her energy is sacred, not something to be spent pleasing everyone who demands a piece of her. For years, she said yes to keep the peace, yes to avoid guilt, yes to prove her love. But each yes she gave against her own intuition took a small piece of her power away. She became exhausted from carrying the emotions, problems, and pain of others, people who often gave nothing in return. Then one day, she learned something life-changing, that saying no is not rejection, it's protection. It's not cruelty, it's clarity. And in that realization, her spirit begins to heal. When she says no, she's not being rude. She's reclaiming her time, her space, her peace. She's refusing to be an endless source of emotional supply for those who only come to take. Narcissists and manipulators often disguise themselves as lovers, friends, or even soulmates. They flatter her, depend on her, and play on her empathy to keep her giving. But the moment she says no, when she stops feeding their ego and starts feeding her soul, their mask begins to slip. They can't stand her boundaries, because boundaries mean they can no longer control her. Her no exposes what their charm was meant to hide, their dependence on her light. For the empath, learning to say no feels uncomfortable at first. It challenges everything she's been taught, to be kind, accommodating, understanding. She fears being misunderstood, losing people, or being labeled selfish. But as she grows, she learns that peace is worth more than people-pleasing. Each no becomes a declaration of freedom, a silent promise to herself that she will no longer betray her own needs to keep someone else comfortable. The more she says it, the lighter she feels. Her spirit begins to breathe again. Saying no is not about shutting people out. It's about letting the right ones in. It's about creating space for relationships built on mutual respect, not emotional dependency. When she says no to manipulation, she's saying yes to clarity. When she says no to guilt, she's saying yes to growth. And when she says no to energy drainers, she's saying yes to her divine peace. Her no becomes a spiritual statement, a way of telling the universe she's ready for alignment, not attachment. What others may see as distance, in truth, is her healing. She no longer feels the need to explain her choices or justify her boundaries. Her no stands firm, calm, steady, and full of power. It's not said in anger, but in awareness. It's not shouted, it's spoken softly, yet it echoes louder than years of silent suffering. Each time she says no, she reclaims a piece of herself that was lost in the noise of others. It's an act of love, not just for herself, but for the world. Because when an empath protects her energy, her light shines brighter and purer. She can love deeply again, but this time from strength, not from sacrifice. Her no is her freedom song, a melody of self-respect, truth, and liberation. And once she learns to sing it, no one can silence her again. There comes a defining moment in every empath woman's journey, when she realizes she was never meant to save everyone, and that revelation changes everything. For most of her life, she's been the healer, the listener, the one who gives endlessly, often to those who never give back. She thought love meant sacrifice, that compassion meant always saying yes, even when her spirit screamed no. Her kindness was misunderstood as obligation, and her generosity was taken as permission to be used. But exhaustion has a way of teaching lessons that words cannot. Somewhere along the way, she wakes up, drained, heartbroken, and wiser, and whispers to herself, "I'm done fixing others at the cost of breaking myself." This is the moment she transforms from a people pleaser into a warrior of peace. The shift isn't loud, it's quiet, deliberate, and sacred. She no longer apologizes for choosing herself. The same energy she once used to heal others, she now uses to rebuild her boundaries. She starts to realize that not everyone deserves access to her compassion, that her empathy was never meant to be spent recklessly. The love she once scattered freely now becomes focused and intentional, reserved for those who truly value it. She learns that saving others from their chaos often means losing herself in it, and she refuses to drown anymore. At first, this transformation feels strange. She's been conditioned to believe that saying no is selfish, that walking away is unkind. But slowly she understands that true kindness begins with honesty, and honesty sometimes means stepping back. As she reclaims her energy, people who once relied on her for emotional supply begin to resist. Narcissists, manipulators, and energy drainers test her limits, trying to guilt her back into submission. But she no longer bends. She has learned that peace is more powerful than approval. Her silence now carries more strength than her explanations ever did. The empath who once chased validation now stands rooted in self-worth. She stops seeking to be understood by everyone and starts understanding herself. Her boundaries become firm, her intuition sharp, her spirit untouchable. She doesn't raise her voice to prove her strength. Her calm presence says it all. Her power lies not in control but in choice. The choice to walk away, to protect her energy, to prioritize peace over pleasing. This evolution is nothing short of spiritual alchemy. The same heart that once bled from overgiving now glows with divine confidence. She has learned that compassion doesn't mean self-sacrifice. It means discernment, that healing others isn't her job. Healing herself is. And by doing so, she inspires others to rise too. She's no longer the rescuer, she's the revealer. She shows others that real love doesn't mean losing yourself for someone else's comfort. It means standing firm in truth, even when it's lonely. She's not cold, she's conscious. Not distant, just discerning. Her empathy hasn't faded, it has matured into wisdom. And now when she gives love, it's not from emptiness, but from overflow. From people-pleasing to power, this is her rebirth. The empath woman no longer bends to fit into other stories. She writes her own. Her energy is no longer currency for validation, but a sacred force she guards fiercely. She's not here to fix anymore. She's here to flourish. And that transformation, quiet yet unstoppable, changes everything.
For generations, empath women have carried a label that was never truly theirs: too sensitive. It's the phrase society uses to silence the heart that feels too deeply, to shame the soul that refuses to harden. From a young age, she's been told to toughen up, to stop taking things so personally, to not let everything get to her. But what people call sensitivity, the universe calls intuition. What the world sees as weakness, the divine knows as wisdom. Her sensitivity is not something to fix, it's something to honor. It's her built-in compass, her silent truth detector. It allows her to read between the lines, to sense dishonesty hidden beneath smiles, to feel what others can't put into words. Empath women experience the world on a deeper frequency. They don't just hear words, they feel their vibration. They sense the intention behind every tone, the energy behind every action. This gift, though powerful, can also make them misunderstood. When they express concern, others say they're overreacting. When they pull away from someone who feels off, they're told they're being dramatic. When they feel pain others can't see, they're labeled unstable or too emotional. But what those people don't understand is that empaths aren't reacting to what's seen, they're responding to what's felt. Her sensitivity allows her to detect the subtle shifts that most ignore, the hesitation in a voice, the flicker of insincerity in someone's eyes, the emotional temperature of a room. She can walk into a space and instantly know if something's wrong, even when everyone else pretends it's fine. That's not fragility, that's spiritual intelligence. And the cost of that awareness is high, because while others glide through life oblivious, she feels every ripple, every current, every vibration around her. Her heart becomes both her compass and her burden. Narcissists in particular recognize this gift, and they exploit it. They twist her emotions to make her question herself, gaslighting her into believing she's imagining things. They say, "You're overthinking," when she senses their lies. They call her too emotional when she reacts to their manipulation. But what she's actually feeling is truth, the kind they can't hide. Over time, she starts to realize that her sensitivity was never the problem. It was her surroundings. The people who couldn't handle the mirror her empathy held up to their deceit. When the empath woman finally embraces her sensitivity as her strength, everything changes. She no longer hides it to make others comfortable. She doesn't shrink to fit into a world that confuses numbness with strength. Instead, she allows her heart to stay open, but protected. She learns to discern between who deserves her energy and who drains it. Her tears become cleansing, not shame. There comes a time in every empath woman's life when she realizes that solitude is not a punishment, it is a sanctuary. It is the sacred space where she can finally hear herself again after years of hearing everyone else. For so long, she has been the healer, the comforter, the listener, the one who absorbs the world's pain and still manages to smile through it. But what few understand is that being that person comes with a cost. Constantly feeling the emotions of others, their sadness, their jealousy, their anger, slowly begins to drain her spirit. The world's noise, both spoken and unspoken, becomes overwhelming. And so, she begins to crave stillness, not because she's tired of people, but because she's longing to return to herself. When she steps into solitude, everything shifts. The silence that once felt uncomfortable now feels sacred. It's in this stillness that she starts to hear the voice of her own soul again, a voice that had been drowned out by the chaos of toxic connections and emotional clutter. Every deep breath becomes a form of prayer. Every quiet moment becomes a reminder that peace was never lost, just hidden beneath the noise of others. She begins to understand that solitude is not the absence of love. It's the presence of divine connection. It's the space where her intuition wakes up and whispers, guiding her back toward her true path. In solitude, she reconnects with her intuition, that quiet knowing that never lies. The empath's intuition is her compass, her divine GPS. Yet when surrounded by manipulation, it becomes clouded. Narcissists, with their charm and subtle control, are experts at making her doubt herself. They twist her empathy into guilt and her kindness into obligation. But once she detaches, once she chooses silence, she begins to see clearly again. She realizes that the unease she felt around them was her soul trying to speak. Her solitude allows her to trust that voice again, to believe her own energy before believing anyone's words. The stillness becomes her healing ground. She recharges her spirit like the moon recharges in darkness. Her emotions settle like calm water after a storm. She learns that being alone doesn't mean being empty. It means being whole without needing to be filled. In the absence of others' demands, she begins to rediscover her own desires. She paints again, writes again, dreams again. The creativity that once faded under the weight of emotional noise starts to flow freely. Solitude gives her the space to rebuild, not as who she was, but as who she's becoming, wiser, calmer, stronger. And in that sacred silence, she begins to hear something else, divine guidance. The whispers of her ancestors, the gentle nudges from the universe, the signs she once missed in the chaos of giving too much. She notices patterns, synchronicities, moments that feel too perfect to be coincidences. It's as if the universe was always speaking, but she was too busy listening to the wrong voices. Now, in solitude, she understands that divine communication doesn't come in noise, it comes in stillness. Her connection to God, to her higher self, to truth, all of it strengthens in the quiet moments she once feared. What was once loneliness transforms into liberation. She no longer fears being misunderstood because she no longer seeks to be understood by those who can't meet her depth. She realizes that solitude isn't about escaping people. It's about embracing presence, the presence of peace, of purpose, of spirit. She no longer needs constant company to feel alive. Her energy sustains her. Her faith anchors her. Her solitude becomes the altar where she lays down her pain and rises renewed. There are days when she still misses certain people, but even that longing feels different now. It's not desperation, it's remembrance. She can look back with compassion instead of attachment. She forgives without reopening the door. She loves without losing herself. Solitude has taught her that closure doesn't always come from words. Sometimes it comes from peace. And perhaps the most beautiful part is this. The empath woman who once gave everything now gives to herself first. She takes long walks without needing a destination. She enjoys her own company without apology. She prays, meditates, listens to music that heals her soul. She becomes the calm she once searched for in others. And in doing so, her energy begins to shift. She glows differently. Not the kind of glow that comes from external validation, but the glow that comes from inner harmony. The world starts to notice, even the ones who once drained her. But now, her light is not available for consumption. It's reserved for her growth, her divine purpose, her peace. Solitude is not isolation. It is sacred alignment. It's the empath's way of cleansing her spirit from emotional residue that doesn't belong to her. In this space, she finds clarity, forgiveness, and divine strength. Her solitude becomes a conversation with her higher self, gentle, wise, and honest. Every lesson she's learned from pain now serves as wisdom that lights her path forward. So she continues to walk alone, not as someone escaping love, but as someone walking toward a higher kind of love, the kind that begins within. Her solitude isn't silent anymore. It hums with peace, wisdom, and divine connection. It's her sanctuary, her protection, her power. Because when an empath woman learns to be at home in her own company, she becomes untouchable. Her light no longer flickers with the presence of others. It burns steady and strong, guided only by the quiet truth she found in her sacred solitude. When an empath woman finally sets boundaries, it's not an act of cruelty, it's an act of love, the purest kind. She's not punishing anyone or shutting down her heart, she's simply learning to love herself the same way she's always loved others. For years, she may have poured into people who only took, forgiven those who never apologized, and listened to voices that never cared to hear her own. Every time she ignored her needs to keep someone else comfortable, a part of her light dimmed. But one day, she realizes that love without boundaries isn't love at all. It's self-abandonment. So she begins to draw the line, not out of anger, but out of self-respect. When she walks away, she's not turning cold, she's turning clear. Her silence becomes her language, her distance, her declaration of worth. She no longer explains, pleads, or justifies her peace to anyone who refuses to honor it. That silence, that calm refusal to participate in chaos, speaks louder than any argument ever could. The narcissist may call her heartless or accuse her of changing, but in truth, she's just stopped bleeding for people who keep wounding her. She's reclaiming her time, her voice, and her energy, the sacred parts of herself that once went to those who only wanted to control or drain her. Boundaries, for the empath, become a spiritual shield, a quiet, invisible force that protects her from emotional chaos. They allow her to give without being depleted, to love without losing herself, and to care without being consumed. Every no she speaks is an affirmation that her peace matters. Every door she closes is an act of trust in herself and in divine timing. It takes strength to say this far and no further. It takes courage to stop explaining why you deserve respect. But once she learns that boundaries don't push love away, they invite the right kind of love in, she becomes unstoppable. Her boundaries aren't walls, they're gates of discernment. Only those who come with sincerity, respect, and truth will be allowed through. And so, when she walks away, she doesn't do it in bitterness. She does it in grace. Her silence isn't empty, it's full of power, full of peace, full of everything she had to lose to find herself again. The empath woman has finally learned that her love means more when it's protected. Because boundaries aren't rejection, they're self-acceptance in motion.
There's something about an empath's light that a narcissist cannot resist. It's warm, genuine, and pure. Everything they secretly wish they could be but never are. Empaths move through the world with sincerity, with hearts open to understanding and healing others. That very openness becomes a magnetic force that draws narcissists in like moths to a flame. To the narcissist, the empath's compassion feels intoxicating. It feeds the emptiness they carry inside. They're not in love with her soul, they're addicted to the way her energy makes them feel. It's not affection, it's hunger. And in their hunger, they drain her light little by little, mistaking her kindness for weakness and her forgiveness for permission. The empath, at first, doesn't see the danger. Her heart believes in goodness. She wants to help, to heal, to love deeply, unaware that the very traits that make her beautiful also make her a target. The narcissist studies her like an artist studies a masterpiece. They mimic her empathy, mirror her emotions, and pretend to share her values, all to keep her close. But their admiration is not genuine. It's possessive. They crave her glow because it exposes what they lack: real emotion, authenticity, and connection. Her light makes their darkness unbearable, and rather than heal themselves, they try to dim her instead. This obsession becomes a silent battle of energy. The narcissist clings tighter whenever she shines brighter, trying to claim her warmth as their own. But the empath's spirit eventually begins to feel the imbalance. The quiet exhaustion, the heaviness that lingers after every conversation, the confusion between love and control. That's when her intuition starts whispering, something is wrong. When she finally listens, she realizes her light is sacred and not everyone deserves access to it. Her glow, once freely given, now becomes her responsibility to protect. She learns that not every connection is meant to be healed, and not every soul deserves her energy. The same light that attracted the narcissist becomes her strength to walk away. She doesn't dim herself anymore to make others comfortable. Instead, she guards her energy like a treasure because she understands now that her compassion is rare, her depth is divine, and her authenticity is priceless. The narcissist's obsession with her light will never end, but it no longer affects her. They may crave her warmth, but they'll never hold it again. Her light no longer burns for others' validation. It burns for her own truth. And as she walks away, her glow only grows stronger, untouched by their shadow, guided by the wisdom her pain once taught her.
The deepest wisdom often grows from the deepest wounds. For rare empath women, this truth is written in every scar they carry, not the ones seen by the eyes, but the ones felt in the soul. They didn't become strong by chance. They became strong because they had to. They gave love where it wasn't returned, offered understanding to those who only took advantage of it, and stayed loyal to people who were only loyal to their own needs. Betrayal became their teacher, and exhaustion became their awakening. There came a moment when they could no longer give from an empty cup. That's when something inside them shifted. They stopped trying to fix others and began tending to their own wounds. Their solitude wasn't a retreat from life, it was a return to themselves. In that quiet space, the empath woman begins to stitch her spirit back together. Each moment alone becomes an act of healing, soft, intentional, and sacred. She starts to see patterns she once ignored, the red flags she brushed aside, the boundaries she never enforced, the way she kept choosing people who mirrored her unhealed pain. This awareness hurts, but it's the kind of pain that purifies. Slowly, she learns that her love doesn't have to be her weakness. It can be her wisdom. The same heart that was once shattered now beats with a new rhythm, calm, discerning, and strong. The narcissist once thrived on her openness, feeding on her empathy like sunlight. But now, her light is guarded by understanding. She no longer gives her energy freely to those who don't honor it. Every wound she once carried now serves as a map, a guide showing her who deserves her presence and who doesn't. Her pain turned into discernment, her tears into clarity. She no longer needs to explain her boundaries. Her energy speaks for her. Healing didn't happen overnight. It came through quiet evenings, heavy reflections, and the courage to face her own shadows. The empath woman realizes that solitude is not loneliness, it's self-respect in motion. It's the space where brokenness turns into wisdom, and where love for others transforms into love for self. What once felt like an ending becomes the beginning of her wholeness. Her silence now carries strength. Her boundaries glow like armor, and the woman who was once wounded beyond words now walks with a wisdom that no one can take away.
Energy never lies. It speaks louder than words, even when the mouth stays silent. Empath women live by this truth. They can walk into a room and feel what others can't see. The tension behind a smile, the jealousy behind a compliment, the emptiness behind charm. Their sensitivity is not a weakness. It's a radar finely tuned to vibration. When someone's energy is off, they feel it instantly. The sudden heaviness in the air, the quiet discomfort in their chest, the urge to step back before understanding why. This gift, though powerful, can also be draining when surrounded by the wrong people. That's why walking alone becomes essential. It gives them space to clear the static, to separate their energy from the energy of others. Narcissists, on the other hand, are masters of disguise. They can appear kind, attentive, and magnetic, but their energy always gives them away. A subtle sense of hunger, a pull that feels off balance, as if they're taking more than they're giving. The empath may not be able to explain it in words, but her spirit feels the warning long before her mind does. That's what makes her solitude sacred.
When she steps back from the noise, she can finally trust what she feels without questioning herself. She learns to listen to her body's signals, the tightening in her chest, the sudden fatigue, the instinct that says, something's wrong here. These sensations are not overreactions. They are divine messages guiding her away from manipulation. By walking alone, the empath woman keeps her inner energy field pure. She no longer absorbs the emotions of others or confuses their pain with her own. In solitude, her aura strengthens, becoming like a shield of light around her. She can sense when someone approaches with hidden motives and quietly step aside before they even realize she's onto them. This is her power, subtle, spiritual, and unseen. The narcissist's tricks lose their grip because she no longer doubts what her intuition already knows. Energy is truth, and once an empath woman starts trusting that truth, she becomes impossible to deceive. She stops justifying toxic behavior and starts honoring how her spirit feels. Her energy becomes her compass, leading her only toward peace and authenticity. It's not loneliness she seeks, it's energetic freedom, the ability to live without the weight of other people's darkness pressing on her light. Every moment she spends alone realigns her spirit, restores her strength, and reminds her of one simple truth. She doesn't need to explain what she feels, because energy doesn't lie, and she's finally learned to listen. Why some of the most kind-hearted, deeply feeling women seem to walk alone? Why the ones with the softest hearts often carry the heaviest silences? There's a mystery behind it, a truth most people never see. Rare empath women don't walk alone because they're broken or unloved. They walk alone because they finally understand what it takes to protect their peace. They've danced with charmers who turned cold, trusted smiles that hid envy, and poured love into souls that only knew how to take. But something changed. Somewhere along the way, she realized her light was never meant to be shared with everyone, especially not with those who feed off it. In this video, we'll uncover the hidden reasons empath women choose solitude, and why their silence is their greatest weapon against narcissists. So stay with me till the end, because once you understand this truth, you'll never see solitude the same way again. And if you've ever been that woman who loved too deeply, who felt too much, drop a comment, because this one is for you. There's something profoundly sacred about the silence an empath woman keeps. When she chooses solitude, it's not an act of fear or withdrawal. It's an act of deep wisdom. She has seen enough of the world's noise, enough of the manipulation disguised as affection, enough of people who mistake her kindness for weakness. So now she walks alone, not because she can't find love or connection, but because she values peace more than company. Her solitude is not empty, it's full of reflection, healing, and quiet power. In that stillness, she rebuilds what others tried to break. She learns to listen to her intuition again, the voice that narcissists once made her doubt. Alone, she rediscovers her strength, not the kind that roars, but the kind that glows softly, unshakable, and calm. Solitude becomes her spiritual armor. Each quiet moment teaches her how to guard her energy, how to say no without guilt, and how to walk away without explaining herself. She realizes that being alone doesn't mean being lonely. It means being safe in her own energy. While the world often glorifies constant connection, she learns that her healing thrives in stillness. The peace she finds in solitude is unlike anything chaos can offer. It clears the fog created by emotional games and manipulation, allowing her to see people for who they truly are. For the empath woman, solitude is not a punishment, it's a homecoming. It's where she remembers who she was before the world told her to dim her light. It's where she gathers the scattered pieces of her spirit and turns them into wisdom. She learns that her empathy is a gift, but only when it's protected. The sacred power of her solitude lies in its ability to keep her grounded, to separate her emotions from others, and to shield her from those who drain rather than give. In this space, her soul breathes again. Her thoughts become clear, her emotions settle, and her heart beats in peace with her own rhythm. People may misunderstand her distance. They may call her guarded, detached, or even cold. But what they don't see is the calm fire within her, the quiet courage it takes to walk away from what doesn't serve her spirit. Every moment of her solitude refines her intuition, sharpens her discernment, and strengthens her connection to the divine. She begins to trust her energy more than anyone's words. And when she steps back into the world, she does so not as a fragile heart, but as a woman who has mastered the art of protecting her light. Her solitude has not weakened her, it has transformed her. It has taught her that sometimes the loudest form of strength is silence.